All right. Welcome in. This is Professor Rigel Flamsteed, VT of Game Theory 101. This is the night class at Virtual University, and we have been playing 80 Days, brought to you by Inkle Studios. Inkle has made a great little game here, and we've been playing it. This is part 2. We did part 1 2 nights ago, I think, and it was a lot of fun. I tried to pick what I thought would be a fairly orthodox route in this game. This is 80 Days is a adaptation of Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days. So, the point of the game, it's a narrative-based game, and it's also an adventure. It's kind of like a choose-your-own adventure with some other mechanics. So it feels a little bit RPG-like in the sense that you do have some control over what you're equipped with and how those things mechanically affect the game as things go along. There's a lot of things that can happen that are kind of just unpredictable. The game really changes based on the route that you18, and Inkle Studio did a really good job of kind of fleshing out this whole world, basically, this whole alternative 1872 steampunk clockwork kind of world that they've built here. On that note, we're on day 47 of circumnavigating the globe. We've been doing a really good job. This is I think one of my fastest runs on this game so far. I say so far because anything could happen. We could get delayed or waylaid or sent off course. But we are taking a experimental hovercraft from Yokohama in Japan all the way to Honolulu, and we're about halfway across that leg of the journey when there's been a murder on the hovercraft, and so we're going to find out. And they think it's me because the person was killed with the katana that was in my luggage. I am playing Passepartout, who is the valet for Phileas Fogg, who is the guy who's basically responsible for us being here in the first place, because he placed a bet with his gentleman's club back in London, where we left from 47 days ago. Anyway, so even though this is his adventure, Phileas Fogg's adventure, it's just as much Passepartout's adventure, who's his French valet. So you will hear Passepartout given a French accent. All the other characters, if I feel like I can do an accent for them, I will. I've been giving Phileas Fogg an accent, and we'll just see how it goes. So here we go. We left off, as I said, we just discovered a body next to a bloody katana that had been in my suitcase. The next day, the investigation, such as it was, began in earnest. The captain demanded to talk to everyone, but of course, everyone had an alibi. The time of death, and I have choices here, the time of death was declared by Monsieur Jaffer as being 2 or 3 hours before the body was discovered, based on his experience and the temperature of the corpse. But I am no doctor, he added. There is no doctor aboard, I reminded him. Nor is there a detective, he said. I am retired with, good reason. The manner of the death was quite obvious, and had been confirmed. Surely it would have been a noisy affair, General Peters remarked. Did anyone hear anything? No one had. Indeed, if the ship had not begun listing without its artificer's guiding hand, we might not have discovered poor Madame Chou for several hours more. Oh, excuse me. It was a woman who was killed. Ooh. The scene of the crime could not be sealed, or there was no doubt the culprit was still aboard. The scene of the crime could not be sealed because the crew needed access to the boiler, which was still making curious noises. At least we were fully upright once more. There was no doubt that the culprit was still aboard, but there was no clues to suggest who it might be. But the weapon, that belonged to us and had been spirited out of our own locked cabin. That, the captain huffed, is the only piece of true evidence we have, Passepartout. Where were you and your master at the time of the crime? I told the truth. I was taking a turn on deck alone. My master, I believe, was in the drawing room. Also alone. Monsieur Fogg put in helpfully. Captain nodded. It does not look good, gentlemen. But what possible motive could we have? I protested. The captain shrugged. I am a captain, not a police detective. Our course is simple, Monsieur Fogg said directly. We are in the ocean. There is nowhere for us to run, therefore no need to imprison us. Here's our offer. Let us try to discover the true culprit by the time we reach port, or you may arrest us for the crime. I rubbed my hands. A chance to save ourselves. The captain nodded. Very well. You have until we dock. Once he was gone, Monsieur Fogg turned to me. Passepartout, our situation is desperate. You must uncover the truth. What will you do? I demanded. I will consider the matter, Monsieur Fogg replied. There were only a few days remaining. I drew up my list of suspects and attempted to do some detecting. There was no time to lose. Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's talk to Monsieur Jaffer. I hope you have discovered something useful, Passepartout. Let's talk about Honolulu. I've heard Honolulu is impossibly beautiful. A paradise. Yeah, I believe that. What about Honolulu to Acapulco? Oh, okay, we can take the Reina Cristina. It's an airship. Honolulu to Acapulco. They say there are many artifacts made by Aztec artificers there. But tell me, do you have a prime suspect? Perhaps, perhaps not. Oh, sorry, perhaps. Perhaps not. You must have facts, Passepartout. Facts will clarify everything. Alright, yeah, that's true. What about Acapulco to Havana? Let's just say that the fastest way to Havana from here is via Acapulco. Okay. Play some cards and learn about some more about Honolulu. Apparently there is a regular banana boat from Honolulu to San Francisco, but the fare is very high. I've heard that buyers in Albuquerque will pay extremely well for revolvers from San Francisco. And the only bank in Albuquerque has gone bankrupt. Okay. Some dominoes. We can get a little more information. What about San Francisco? Many Chinese immigrants in San Francisco, and from San Francisco to Salt Lake City, it sounds like there was a railway, but it suffered a fire. What about Dallas? Wax cylinders with Dallas you can sell in Port-au-Prince. What about New Orleans? Miami is connected to Atlanta by rail. What about New Orleans to Houston? Let's just say that the quickest way to Houston is through Acapulco. Okay, so we learned some things here. Let's see. That is a long one. Manila to... Oh my god, there's a way to take... Oh, you could take Manila to Honolulu as well. And then from Honolulu, we can go to San Francisco, which also connects to these... Oh no, San Pedro connects to Albuquerque, which connects to Dallas, which connects to New Orleans. And you can also go from Miami to Atlanta. That makes sense. Atlanta's a lot more inland than I gotta look at a map. I began my investigations. Talking to Monsieur Jaffer. Monsieur, you must help me. Jaffer smiled thinly. I am retired, Passepartout, and not entirely through choice. But you are the most qualified person aboard. He shrugged. Perhaps. All I can tell you is to consider the circumstances closely. And remember, most people are not particularly good at lying. You do understand neither I or my master were to blame. Now, let's say, tell me, monsieur. I thanked him for his advice. Tell me, monsieur, where were you at the time of the crime? He nodded with a smile. A good question, and one you should be asking me and everyone else. I was in my cabin, attending to my person. When the body was found, as you know, I was in the dining room with you. I left Jaffer at the rail, contemplating the rushing water below. Oh boy. I gotta keep Mr. Fogg alive, but we are rapidly running out of time. I spent the next day in conversation with the captain. Have you found out anything yet, Passepartout? He inquired. I shook my head. I am drawing a blank, I told him. I'm sorry to hear that, he said. For my money, I don't trust that General Peters. He's altogether too square-jawed about the whole affair for my liking. Tell me about Madame Chou. He sighed with deep sadness. She was a remarkable artificer. This is a remarkable boat. Her great legacy. I couldn't be more proud to be her captain. She was going to make more ships? We were going to make an entire fleet. That dream is gone. No one knows how the boat works. No one can repair it in case of disaster. He paused a moment and added, Please do not tell the other passengers that. Let's see. Do you have a key to our cabin? I asked, considering the matter of how the weapon found its way out of our luggage. He nodded. I do. I have a key to every cabin aboard, as does the butler and the first mate. But their loyalty is without question to the ship and its artificer. They are above suspicion. Is anyone above suspicion? I demanded. Of course, the captain replied. Where were you at the time of the crime? When the body was discovered on the bridge with my crew. A few hours before, when Jaffer says it happened, I was off my shift. I was asleep. Alone? He bristled, but understood the question. Yes, Passepartout, alone. I thanked the captain for his time. Good luck to you, Passepartout, he said. I fear you may need it. That night, I remembered to adjust the pocket watch, as we had crossed the international date line and gained ourselves a day. Nice, we gained a day back. Okay, I gotta converse. Greetings, Mademoiselle Carlotta. How goes your investigations? They say King Christian. Kamehameha the Third is a devout Christian. Okay. You mentioned steamships. I've been told Lima can be reached from Santiago. Thank you. Tell me more about San Francisco. New Orleans will pay a huge amount from harmonicas from San Francisco. Canadian Pacific Railway from Calgary to Regina. That's not super helpful. Quickest way from Cheyenne is via San Francisco. You can go to Omaha from Cheyenne. We're learning about America. This is I think helpful. Oh, okay. Gatstown. Makes me think of Mad Max. We're going to Gastown. Lima. Oh, we're not going. I don't plan to go that far south. I'm planning to go straight across North America. But nice to know. Oh my god, we're running out of time. A few days down, and I felt I had learned very little, or I had learned a lot. I was too confused to see it. To try and clear my head, I spent a few hours at the scene. Several feet had trampled through it by now, of course, and there had been ample chance for the murder to come in and remove anything incriminating they may have left behind. Even the dust had drifted away through the open porthole. But perhaps there was something small they had not considered. I hunted in the dust, along the edges of the machines, in every nook and cranny, but I found nothing. Suddenly, the boat listed and the machine made a squealing noise. And I looked over at the controls, fearing disaster. But it seemed the artificer was tending her ship even from beyond the grave. A lever snapped, a piston pumped, a valve opened, and a blast of cold air shot out across the floor of the boat, and then the flap closed. The boat tilted back upright, and the cold air spread away. I had jumped out of my skin. I took a moment to calm down once more. With that, I left the engine room. Oh, okay, we did not learn anything. Oh, that's not good. Oh, we're getting awfully close. Oh boy, I had barely any time left. Hawaii was fast approaching. I used what I had, asking questions of Mademoiselle Carlotta, Peter... Let's talk to Madame Carlotta. Mademoiselle, you must help me, I began. Mademoiselle Carlotta nodded, though I could see fear in her eyes. And she demanded to talk out on the open deck in view of the bridge. Whatever I can do, she said. Where were you when the crime occurred? We found the body. Do you know Madame Shu? You found the body. What were you doing in the engine room? What do you think? She exclaimed with perfect surprise. The boat was about to capsize. It was tipping right over. I hurried down to the boiler room to see what was going on, and if I could help. How might you have helped? I'm no artificer, but I had an interest in this device of Madame Shu's, she said, so I know a bit about its function. Anyway, I thought Madame might be able to use a pair of hands. Where were you in the crime occurred? I was in my cabin. I have an alibi for that, you'll be pleased to hear. The ship's butler brought me my gin and tonic about an hour before dinner, right about when Jaffer said it happened. Tell me about yourself. What brings you aboard? I made my money in gold on the west coast of America, she said. Now I own a small shipping line. But it is a hobby, really. And what brings you to this boat? Research, she replied with a sigh. I was going to make an offer to buy her whole fleet, but I don't think that offer would be worth very much now. I was told she and the captain already had a deal. There's always scope to negotiate, she replied with a shrug. A partnership would most likely have worked. She folded her arms suddenly. But what about you? Where were you when it happened? I was taking a turn on deck, I told her. You seem determined to find someone to blame. Goodness, Passepartout, does the captain seriously think you did it? Me or my master, it does not matter which. She looked at me with sympathetic eyes. It is a terrible thing to be accused of that which you did not do. Did you know Madame Chou? Mademoiselle Carlotta shook her head. I've heard of her reputation, of course. That's why I agreed to board the ship. But I'd never met her. Until we launched, she nodded. Tell me of Madame Chou's reputation. She's one of a kind, Carlotta replied. A new Savarkar. This hover ship is her own creation, and there is nothing else like it anywhere. It will revolutionize international trade if it is successful. I thanked her for her time. Had I learnt anything? I could not be sure. We're out of time. No! Morning came, and the captain... I believe I have a theory, I replied. I believe I have a theory, I replied nervously. The captain nodded briskly. I'm glad to hear it. We will gather everyone together and you can discuss what you have discovered. Very well. Alright. Okay, Monsieur Fogg touched my elbow as we followed the captain to the drawing room as the others were called. Passepartout, please be cautious. We are still under suspicion. Do not attempt to bluster or they will think you are guilty. Yes, monsieur. He nodded, and we stepped into the room. Monsieur Jaffer leaned by the window, his eyes clouded. Mademoiselle Carlotta was visibly fretting, looking about with clear fear of someone. General Peters looked frankly across, presumably because of the delay to his journey. I cleared my throat and began to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, I have brought you together because I believe I know who killed our artificer. Of course you know, General Peters said. You did it! The weapon was yours, you've no alibi, and you're a damned Frenchie to boot. Hey, whoa, hey! Hey now, shots fired. Come on. I held up a hand for silence. Monsieur, I am a valet, and quite unimpeachable. He barked a laugh at that, but the captain called for silence and Peters harumphed an apology. The key to this whole affair, I began nervously. Now there was a scream. Business arrangements. Time of death. Was the time of death? I saw Jaffer frown sharply. At the time told to us by Monsieur Jaffer, no one has an alibi for their whereabouts except Mademoiselle Carlotta, who was in her cabin receiving a gin and tonic from the butler. Any of us could have been in the boiler room, bringing Madame Chou to grief. Indeed, Jaffer replied, but what of it? How sure of you that time? How sure are you of that time? Jaffer nodded. I touched her. She was quite cold. What if she was killed for another reason? Like what? General Peters put in. A cold blast of air. He shrugged. It would have to be a very long, very cold blast, he said. Wind through an open portal wouldn't do it. I held up a finger for silence. Monsieur Jaffer, if such a thing were possible, the old detective shrugged. Then I would not know for certain. The coroner could have said more from the blood, but I could not. If the temperature were not a factor, she could have died any time. I nodded, satisfied. The next detail is the business arrangements of Madame Chou. I saw the captain and Mademoiselle Carlotta exchange sharp looks. As you know, the artificer was the inventor of this ship. You may not know she was considering going into business with a good captain, as well as Mademoiselle Carlotta. The captain shook his head. She was going into business with me and me alone. I tried to persuade her, Mademoiselle Carlotta admitted. I tried to befriend her. I would have succeeded in the end, but now, she shrugged, now there is nothing to buy. And nothing to threaten your business? I suggested. She shrugged. This would have been my business, but I have money. There will be another business. Monsieur Jaffre frowned suddenly and looked up. But mademoiselle, he said, you already own a shipping route, don't you? I own several, she snapped in return. I looked around the room. Let us consider the lack of a screen. I saw people sitting up sharply. We all saw the unpleasant manner of Madame Chu's death, but none of us heard it. I began to wonder, what would that be? It was no doubt, sadly, rather brief, General Peters said. That was exactly my conclusion, he nodded. This was a murder by a most efficient killer. They all exchanged fearful looks while I continued. So then, this is the personalities we have in this room. General Peters shook his head. What would a valet know of the human mind, eh? Much less of the mind of a murderer. Oh boy. Let's see. But Madame, now she has an alibi. But you, gentlemen, dislike foreigners. I do, the general answered stiffly, and I should think they dislike me. But that doesn't mean I murder every foreigner I meet. I could not argue. Monsieur Fogg gestured for me to continue. So then, this is what we have discovered. A lot of empty nonsense, I fear, Passepartout. Captain, we had an arrangement. He put his wrists forward. You may arrest us. The captain thought for a moment, then shook his head. I cannot do it. An English gentleman is above reproach. Captain, you will show us mercy? Not mercy exactly, the captain replied, voice heavy with bitter sadness. Madame Chu was my friend. I encouraged her to make this craft. I funded her experiments. I allowed you passengers on board. I should have helped to keep her safe. She was more valuable to me than you may realize. No one could have foreseen something so horrific. The captain shook his head. I am still ignorant now, but Madame Chu is gone. The boat is forfeit. My captaincy, too. I cannot have you two arrested. There is no evidence. Any of my crew might have done it equally well. I fear we will never know. I looked to my master, but he bowed his head. Today, the captain said, I will be letting a murderer walk free. Oh. Sorry, I was reading down. But there is nothing else I can in conscience do. With that, he left the cabin, and in somber spirits we disembarked. Madame Chu's killer was never brought to justice. My own suspicion that General Peters had been responsible was left unproven. Dang it! Maybe you guys can figure something out that I missed. Alright, what do we got? Not a lot. Oh, and the sword is gone. No. Alright. A Model 1 Smith & Wesson. Nice. That's a fine gun. I'll take that. We're not going to Panama, but we might. I know it's expensive, but hear me out. Salt Lake City and San Francisco are both going to be nearby. And what was the other one? Panama City. I mean, like, no matter where we go, that's going to be valuable. At least we didn't end up, like, in trouble. Or in more trouble, I should say. New routes discovered! Yes, we know. I don't think there anything actually new. Oh, no, look at that. It was as though Honolulu lived in one indrawn breath. A wheeling swath of sky, white-laced waves and pristine sand, bounded by black volcanic bluffs. The town was entirely hidden behind groves of coconut and eucalyptus. We rested in a comfortable palm-topped hut. Oh yeah, look at that. Monsieur Fogg, Phileas Fogg's health is recovering, which is good. Breathing the sea air and trying to shake the weariness of the road. Dang. Alright, let's plan. I really want to go to San Francisco. And it goes tomorrow. And... looks like we can do it. But it's already leaving tomorrow anyway. So we don't do that. Okay, we're just gonna rest. We'll pass the night. We got some cash. The last light of the evening, I spent a few hours walking around. Oh man, didn't find really anything. Okay. Let's get out of here. Choo-choo, taking the banana boat. We boarded a steam barge from Honolulu to San Francisco. The scent of ripe bananas pervaded every plank of decking and bulkhead, a sweet and deliciously rotting odor which I rather became accustomed to on the voyage, much to the detriment of my keen sense of smell. Greetings, Captain. Passepartout, take my arm. Let's talk about San Francisco. They say that San Francisco is one of the most advanced American cities. And getting to Salt Lake City, Piedmont, from New York to Washington. Let's talk about Washington. You heard some buyers will pay well for evening jackets from Washington. But now, do you have any children yourself? Someday. You should get a move on. You're not getting any younger. Let's talk about Washington. Some people say you can pick up wax cylinders inscribed with music in Washington you can sell for profit in Miami. Let's talk about some poetry. Salt Lake City. I heard the buyers in San Pedro will pay very well for engine oil from Salt Lake City. It's good to know. And what about Salt Lake City to New York? They're building that thing out on the island there. What does that even mean? What thing? It's a little ominous. New York to Toronto? He's still the best whiskey in all Canada in Toronto. What about New York to Atlanta? You can obtain skyscraper blueprints in Atlanta that will sell for a fortune in Lisbon. You can actually get to Lisbon from through Omaha from here. Okay, interesting. Good to know. I think that's enough information for now. Oh, look at that. So we can go a northern route or a southern route. That's good to know. I huffed, attempting to convince my mouth that I ate fried kippers and potatoes for breakfast. Everything smells of bananas. Monsieur Fogg replied that he could not smell a thing, which I took to be his queerly English sense of humor at work. Still, if bananas were to be the worst of my troubles aboard this boat, then that would be no bad thing. Yeah, compared to last time. I completely agree. Shave superb. I woke in the middle of the night, convinced that someone was in the cabin with me. I stayed very still and listened. There was a long, wave-lapped silence until I heard, distinctly, a dragging shuffle. I opened my eyes and looked up, my heart beating impossibly loud in my chest. In the darkness, I saw the sheen of a pair of eyes, gazing vacantly into the distance. "Monsieur Fogg!" I cried, and my midnight visitor blinked and straightened and looked around my cabin in genteel surprise. "What?" he said calmly, pulling his dressing gown closed. "Am I doing in your cabin, Passepartout?" "You would know better than I, monsieur," I exclaimed passionately, rather upturned by his sudden appearance. He took a sharp breath. "It seems I have been sleepwalking," he said, his voice almost tremulous. "I have not done so since I was a child. Please accept my apologies." "Would you like to stay for a while?" I asked, sensing his agitation. "I'm awake after all." He hesitated for a long moment. "I would like that. Thank you. Relations have deteriorated. But I let him stay, because we're hanging out. That doesn't make any sense." I feel most comfortable. Yeah, we're doing a good job. Captain Kalani was a heavily pregnant Hawaiian woman who found Monsieur Fogg's English accent a source of great mirth. "Say something else," she demanded over breakfast. "Please, Mr. Fogg." I distracted her with some idle talk, and my master cast me a grateful look, all in a day's work for a valet of my unimpeachable caliber. Alright, we're almost there. Bound of Whist, capital. The fourth day aboard our barge passed quietly. Captain Kalani moved slowly around the deck, her profile jaw-dropping large. When are you due? When we dock, she breathed, and not a day before, I should hope. The blush in her cheeks belied her excitement. It is a marvelous thing. Oh boy. We arrived into San Francisco without any further incident. Nice. Let's hold on to it for now. I bet it's more valuable. Boy. Okay. Let's see here. Another Smith & Wesson. We're gonna want that, I have a feeling. Do I take the buffalo thing? Do I sell the accordion and buy the buffalo hide? It's valuable in Dallas, Salt Lake City, and Chicago. And here. Let's sell it. We'll buy the buffalo hide. We need to get to Chicago, right? Chicago. Oh, no. Arlington, Chicago. Let's get out of here. Oh. Okay. Right, this is a thing that's valuable in Chicago? Am I crazy? We were lucky to arrive in San Francisco just in time to catch the inaugural journey of the Transcontinental Express, which would take us to Chicago in 6 days with only a handful of stops along the way. Monsieur Fogg, unfortunately, was not feeling lucky, having eaten some rather speculative oysters in the afternoon when away from my watchful eye. I was most solicitous, and brought my master cool cloths, and weak sugared tea till he pronounced that he felt much recovered. Why would things have deteriorated? I'm doing my best. Come on, man. First day aboard was enjoyable enough. American trains could clearly not compete with their European counterparts, but it was amusing to see them try. The poster proclaimed, Pullman's Palace Sleeping Cars. And while not palatial in the slightest, they were at least serviceable. We sipped cool beer as we rattled through a long stretch of desert in the shadow of tall mountains. I attended to Monsieur Fogg and his delicate stomach, which was not entirely better today. Okay, see, he's hanging in there. Let's converse with Monsieur Durant. Chicago to New York. Washington to New York. Yeah, okay. That's interesting to know. What about New York? Tell us things. You might be interested that some buyers will pay well for revolvers from New York, but answer me this. I suppose you don't have any idea who my father is. Apologies? I do not. Oh, don't worry. You will. Durant. Let's see. Jackets from Washington. We knew that already. Tell us about Chicago. I know a woman who lived in Chicago just after the Winnipeg and Duluth Railroad to Winnipeg went missing. Let's learn about Winnipeg. Winnipeg is from Duluth, and Duluth... Keep talking. I have to go. Oh. I mean... Okay. It's not really that helpful. Our fellow passengers were a curious mix of gold and silver prospectors, homesteaders, farmers from all corners of the world. I gave a young black woman with a deep red bonnet an infectious laugh. A wide smile. Her name was Diana. I am meeting my husband in Cheyenne, she told me. He did construction work in New York, but New York isn't safe anymore. We have enough money to move now. Why isn't it safe? I queried innocently, having only the broad strokes of American news and history. You did not hear of the draft riots in Europe? She asked wonderingly. New York has always had Confederate sympathies, and when the Union began... Really? And when the Union began drafting New Yorkers, they rioted. They killed and burned black homes. My husband has never felt safe since, but now we're moving to Cheyenne. She smiled, nearly glowing with happiness. I told her some tales of my adventures, which seemed to amuse her greatly. As the afternoon wore into evening, we passed by Ogden, close to Salt Lake City. We watched as passengers disembarked, glimpsing fertile fields and well-tended ranches out of the windows of the train. I think we'll just wait. Oh. News. Okay. People have heard about us. Aw. We don't hope for a superior valet. Today, a fellow with a painfully trimmed mustache and impeccable suit approached me outside the lavatory. I made my way so he could pass by, but he extended a hand to me. "I'm Felix Granger," he said. "You are a puzzle." I was utterly flummoxed. "I? A puzzle?" I repeated in consternation. "Monsieur, I am a simple man whose past is an open book." "Oh, no. Do tell me how you came to be on the Transcontinental. Thereby hangs a tale, I can tell you, good sir." I was merely interested in me and my adventures, and I saw no reason not to enlighten him in great and florid detail, his eyebrows raised higher and higher during my recitation. Then he said unsurely, "This is your first time in America?" Well, I declined to give him a definitive answer, wanting to project an impression of worldliness. He seemed to regard me with some uncomfortable speculation for a moment, but the expression was quickly covered over with bland friendliness as he took his leave. That's not good. That's a little unnerving. 6-foot-tall woman, latest slim trained skirts, and a pistol tucked in her waistband. We watched, none the wiser. At luncheon, I asked one of the woman homesteaders, who informed me that she was Esther Hobart Morris, a justice of the peace, and indeed the first one in America. She sniffed. "Honestly, some women. What's wrong with being a wife and a mother, I ask you?" Oh, man. 1872. The trim mustached fellow boarded the train again before the last whistle blew, his face drawn and anxious. Oops. We were held up by outlaws. They dragged tree trunks over the line and forced the train to a halt before boarding. Brandishing pistols and sabers, they went carriage to carriage, demanding valuables. I looked at my master, who had a certain glint in his eye, and I did not doubt that he wished a peaceful and quick conclusion to this grave inconvenience. The lead bandit fired his gun into the air. "The name," he declared, "is Jesse James." Jesse James! "Now you give me everything you've got." That's the second time Jesse James has come up in one of my streams. That's really funny. The first time was me. This time... Interesting. Okay. The saber lifted to my throat. I moved to draw my revolver, but the man knocked my hand aside. Let's all keep calm, shall we?" he advised. I handed over my wallet. What else could I do? Oh, look at our money. Oh. Buy yourself new shoes with that. Oh, Monsieur James smiled a toothy smile and tossed me 10 pounds back in return. "Buy yourself new shoes with that," he said as he proceeded to also steal my shoes. Second time. People always constantly steal. Not constantly, but this is the second time in one run that my shoes have been stolen. That's got to be... That's definitely a record for me. The saber point moved on. Now it was Monsieur Fogg's neck. "What about you? You look good for it." I dreaded what Monsieur Fogg's response would be. I jumped to his aid. "He is my gentleman," I declared. "I carry his possessions for him." "Is that so?" the outlaw declared with interest. "So I should technically be taken from you twice, should I?" There was no other option. I suggested we discuss the matter like gentlemen, or I hit him. He began to laugh, but not for long. Just at that moment, a group of soldiers headed by the trim mustached fellows stormed aboard our carriage, pistols drawn. Jesse James lifted his sword and held up his hands. Jesse James with a sword. I was not expecting that. You will not take us hostage? I watched curiously as he was led away by the agents. Then the steam engine restarted. Oh, we got some money back. and we were soon on our way, not much worse for wear, although our valuables were impounded as evidence. We did not have time to wait for the case to come to trial, but the officers compensated a little, to the tune of over £1,000. A kind fellow passenger gave me a spare pair of shoes, and a few hours later we reached Burlington. Several passengers disembarked. Did we lose everything? Ooh, clearly grateful to be off this dangerous train. Day 60, Monsieur Fogg murmured that night in his sleep, and still some distance yet to travel. Oh, sweet, they didn't take everything. Okay. Right, on to Chicago. Nice. Today, the entire train was quite subdued, recovering from the hold-up and recounting our individual experiences of the event. I listened with great interest to the other tales of small resistances. Indeed, if one were so inclined, one could find heroism in the most unlikely of places. On reaching Chicago later that day, we disembarked. We were now in the middle of America, an enormous untamed landmass, and we were still many hundred miles from its coast. Yeah, that's not good. We don't have a lot of time left. Yeah, let's plan, though. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. Oh my god, that's crazy. Okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna get up in time. Yes. Walking the streets of Chicago, it became apparent this was a city in a state of some flux, and in every way imaginable. From the wide variance of its diverse populace, strong wind. Let's go with trains. Train lines coming into the city from all directions, to the arrangement of the city blocks themselves, for the blocks I discovered were in motion. Walking the busy streets, I was forced to stop more than once to make way for a family home set on rollers, making its way rapidly down the street towards me. Moving like a strange, gigantic snail, while its occupants calmly ate their dinner at the windows as they went. A sign propped on the veranda read, J.S. McIntyre, Esquire, House Movers. The man on the sidewalk beside me cursed under his breath. They act like they own the road, he muttered. Surely it's hard for them to stop. Are you suggesting this is a common occurrence? I demanded, staring away as the building took a left turn across busy traffic. It's the 7th one of these I've dodged today, the man grumbled. They're supposed to go to Van Buren and thereabouts, but instead they cruise around on those Hickory Springs like so many lords and ladies. Where I come, houses stay where they are placed, I told him. It was because the mayor wanted the city to be made of stone, so they fitted rollers under the wooden houses to move them out of the way. But you can't just move city folk around like cattle. They got the taste for it, see? People enjoy sunrise on Lakeshore, then they go browsing the shops, then go out of the city for the night, all from their living rooms. I myself have traveled too much, I remarked, and would enjoy staying put. Well, maybe you would. You haven't seen what it's like out of the center. It's like a swamp out there. Should never have built a city here at all, if you ask me. But no one did, of course. With that, he slumped away across the road. I returned to Mr. Fogg at our hotel some time later, but only to find that the city was not tired of toying with me yet. The establishment, which had normally been positioned where, when I left it, now required a ladder to enter, having been raised several feet into the air by a team of men with hefty jack-screws. More great municipal works, no doubt, though I was somewhat more surprised when I stopped on the first rung and they charged $5 for entrance. One poked me hard in the chest. You've just run into Chicago's notorious work gang, he declared. We run this town. Are you going to move the building? I asked. Nope, the man replied. We're going to jack it up another 6 inches for every 10 minutes this miser here doesn't pay his rent. The last words were directed upwards to the open window, and then he returned back to me. And if you want to go inside, $5. Gently press. No exceptions, mister. $5, and in and $5 out. I gave the man £3. He doesn't know. That's funny. Okay, this opens at 7. We do not have 4 hours. So we're going to have to just, let it time out to 7, and then really quickly do our transaction before we depart. We don't have a lot of time here. Okay, I got limited time. Yeah, screw it. Sell that. And we'll sell that. And that is only available in Miami. Well, in Washington and New York. We gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go. Wait, what? What? I'm going the wrong way? The train from Chicago to Winnipeg was intensive. What? It looked monstrous, but when we were in monstrously inhospitable territory, perhaps it was merely... Wait, why are we going... Why are we going that way? No! We're going the wrong way! I encountered a Czech construction worker from Chicago with whom I fell into conversation. I was more than a little wary of talking to him. Okay, good. Let's get off at Duluth, because this is not good. This is bad. We are... okay. There was some standing or about to be done at the lines. Change from... take us till... Surely a boat across the stream will take us halfway to London. Can we not sail? I asked my master, but he shook his head. Ice. No! No! No, this is so stupid! Why am I going backwards? Okay, a blousy blonde hair, but that's okay, I'm just... Okay. Let's just skip this, because I'm kind of frustrated. I don't even want to be going this way. It's the wrong way. Not going to Atlanta. Let's buy that, and then we need to get out of here. Oh God, okay. Okay, it all began when my master and I turned a street corner in Winnipeg and found ourselves directly in the path of a galloping horse with no rider to control it. I prepared to grab the reins as it passed. No doubt the horse had been merely frightened, and would respond to a calming touch. As the stallion drew closer, I could see its eyes rolling wildly, lips pulled back to display yellowing teeth and dripping from the bridle. I flexed my hands and snatched for the reins, pulling them sharply as the leather cut into my hands. The horse barely even registered the motion. Indeed, it began to drag me down the street. I dug my heels in and tried to use my weight to slow the beast's progress, but to no avail. The reins slipped through my sweat-slicked grasp as I was left in the middle of the road, sore-muscled and chapped-palmed as the horse galloped off into the distance. "Well," remarked Monsieur Fogg dryly, "that was dramatic." "Indeed so, monsieur," I replied, but we were not done yet. Moments later, the ground began to shake, and a cloud of dust and a clatter of hoofs resolved into a posse of red-coated mounted police. "Beg your pardon, gentlemen." The fellow in the lead tipped his hat to us, a twinkle in his clear blue eyes. "You haven't by any chance seen a runaway horse go past?" "That is not no horse, but a beast from hell," I shot back caustically. I pointed in a vague direction. "Surely you can follow the trail of bodies?" The red-coated Mountie looked me up and down before leaning over in his saddle and offering me his hand. "Staff Sergeant James McLeod, at your service. And you are?" "Passepartout." His grip was firm and sure, his callous palm rough in my own more refined hand. "Valet extraordinaire," he coughed, hiding a smile behind his hand. "I'm sure you are." I told him that we planned to make our way to London by any means. To hand. Well, here's some local knowledge for you, he offered. There's a little-known airship hangar at Uvijvik. Might be worth heading in that direction. We parted ways soon after. The staff sergeant had a horse to chase after, and as always, my master and I had a journey to plan. All right. Let's get out of here. Tomorrow at 9. Ooh, we're getting kind of close here, people. I guess we can stay at the hotel. That really set us back. Alright. Went out to explore a little, where I saw a nervous Turkish master in a dramatic conversation with a housewife, from which I learned some insightful details about vintners. Okay, interesting. Let's do this. Let's see. I have a feeling this is gonna actually gain us some time back. There are no rails across these lands, declared the woman who took our money and pushed a stack of furs into our arms. No airships. There is only one way to travel. With that, she slapped the bonnet of a steaming metal-wheeled car. Good luck. I was reassured by the many other passengers. Surely they would not all prove to be making a terrible mistake in their choice of transportation. Mormon Desert Railway is faster, cheaper, drier. Interesting. Oh. Oh. Okay. Interesting. Alright. We are possibly back on track. And, well, I mean, we're headed in the right direction, but possibly we're going to be saving some time, I hope. We headed for Ivujivik with a mixed party of fur traders in a fleet of cars. The leader was a devoutly Christian Cree woman who introduced herself as Mary Johnson and insisted on prayers before every meal, even though many of her band did not share her faith. A recipe for discontent, if ever there was. I kept my head down and ears open and warned Monsieur Fogg to do the same. Car fleet. Let's see. The car engines had to be scraped and de-iced come morning. They were not lucky enough to have spent the night in a pile of beaver pelts as we passengers had. We left without delay and managed to reach the settlement of Winnisk on the shores of Hudson Bay by nightfall. We're going right on, I think. At Winnisk, we boarded a heavy freight canoe fitted with a makeshift combustion engine and plowed straight across Kangusolak Ilua, or as the British called it, Hudson Bay. The canoe jagged to the left suddenly, the navigator shouting a belated warning, "Ice flow!" I trusted to my balance and agility, leaning into the motion of the boat and flexing my knees. I heard Monsieur Fogg take one sharp indrawn breath, "No," and with slow crawling horror saw his top hat jerk from the top of his head and catch the wind. Within seconds it would be out of his grasp and plunged into the churning water of the bay. I launched myself at the article of millinery with a bellow, determined it would not meet a watery grave. Alas, I was foiled by one of the trapper's feet, which he had inconsiderately placed in the way of my heroic leap. I tripped and fell, ending up with a face full of beaver pelt and a rather bruised ego. My master cast me a look of dubious approbation, and we turned off the engine and watched Monsieur Fogg's top hat sink beneath the waves with all due solemnity. I felt my... Are things, like, reversed? Why is this... I felt my reputation as a valet sink inexorably alongside it. Thankfully, the remainder of our journey to Ivujivik passed without particular incident, and our relations have actually strengthened with Monsieur Fogg. Yeah, getting tired too. 68. Oof. Alright. Let's pass the night. It is a well-known fact that a traveler in search of advice would be well served to head to the nearest bar, and mes amis, that is exactly what I did as the evening rolled around. I taught a pair of Inuit lads to play whist, and they in turn taught me some appallingly filthy Inuktitut swear words. I am sure that at least half of them were real, perhaps a third. I shall never be able to look a black-ringed seal in the face again. The bartender sidled up to the table, eyeing the spread of cards between us. She cut a dashing figure, an older woman with dark eyes and an easy, charming confidence. "New to town, are you?" "Passepartout at your service, madam." I leapt up and sketched a bow, and was rewarded by a flash of her smile. She introduced herself as Madame Opik Enalik, and happily enough proved to not only be the bartender, but also the comptroller of the local airship hangar. "It's not busy enough to be worth manning the hangar all day," she explained, "but the next airship out's to Reykjavik. Just tell them Opik sent you, and they'll find you a berth if you can afford it." Had a drink to celebrate, which then turned into several drinks, and a slightly foolish dare involving some seal blubber, a lit match, and an ice flow. Opik assured me, however, that what happens in Uvijik stays in Ujvik. I can but hope. Nice. Nice. Look at that. Look at that. Straight on to Reykjavik. Let's do it. Let's get out of here. Negotiate. Let's do it. Let's go. We're gonna run out of money. We took cheap passage on a battered old airship headed for Reykjavik, though the captain warned us we would be making a stop to pick up 3 months' worth of readings from a meteorological outpost on the southern tip of Greenland. Ooh, okay. I hope they are paying you well, I muttered, shivering at the very thought. The captain shrugged. Science is good business these days. Yeah, that makes sense. Alright, let's converse, because we need to find a way to England. Greetings, Passepartout. Let's talk about Reykjavik. And if it is possible... What the heck? Snowden. Nanortalik. Okay, we didn't really... Oh! That's where we're going. We reached the outpost as the blizzard outside intensified. I could barely see the compact buildings through the sleet. And I feared the pilot would miss the tether. I felt the airship was a safer haven. I yearned for land and walls. I felt the airship was a safer haven than the little clutch of huts clinging to the ice. For all that it was on land, we were free floating, and we were for all that it was on land, and we were free floating. The pilot's aim was true: either skill, practice, or luck, and the airship's hook caught the outpost's tether on the first try, pulling us into the waiting dock. The heck? Oh boy. Let's explore. The outpost itself was a barren and cheerless place, apparently manned by a single hardy soul who kept watch over the instruments and recorded meticulous notes. "What is this place called?" I asked, teeth chattering. Well, let me try that again with teeth chattering. "What is this place called?" The pilot shrugged. "It is simply the outpost. Who'd bother giving it a name?" "This is a person who lives here?" I retorted. "Nobody lives here. It's not fit to be someone's home," the pilot muttered. "It's just a stop on the way to somewhere, even if you're the poor bastard who's hired to stop here for half a year." Speaking of which, the pilot opened an inner door and gestured for me to enter. Don't you want to greet him first?" I asked, surprised at his rudeness. "He doesn't like our sort muddying up the place," he snorted. "Better introduce yourself on your own, right?" I stepped through and saw the outline of a man lit by the glow of a bank of instruments. I cleared my throat, and the man gave a start. He turned and fixed me with disconcertingly pale gray eyes. "Visitors," he sneered. The same disdain another man might say murderers or roaches. "What do you want?" "Shh, I only sought to introduce myself," I replied stiffly. "It seemed courteous to do so." The man exhaled heavily. He brushed a hand through his unruly blonde hair. "Please forgive me. My manners have frozen in the blizzard." He offered me a small, desultory smile. "I am Vidi Jokinen. I am Vidi Jokinen, keeper of this outpost. Join me for a cup of tea?" He smiles. His smile sent a thrill through me. I agreed eagerly, not least because of the prospect of something warm to ward off the chill. "Ah, Passepartout," he murmured, handing me a cup of tea. "If only we had met in better circumstances. I do feel we may have become friends." Oh my. "I take my friendship when I can," I told him. "But we are never in one place very long. Though I've found that even a brief acquaintance can forge a true bond." And so we spent a surprisingly pleasant few hours in conversation as the crew refueled the airship. It was with genuine sorrow that I bid him farewell and prepared to embark on the next leg of our frostbitten journey. Hey, new routes discovered. Did we do that already? Go! Blizzard was even more howling and wild as the airship departed from the outpost, and I shivered as I thought of the distance we had yet to travel. Oh yeah, we gotta get there in 10 days. "At your service, Monsieur Fogg. Why, my dear Passepartout." English poetry, playing cards, dominoes. Very good. Okay. He's hanging in there. We're good. We're almost in Iceland. We drifted across the top of the world in relative silence. Below, wars were fought, hearts broken, and curses uttered. Lives began and ended. But all we saw were the cresting waves and the endless drifting ice. I asked the captain for his thoughts, but he only shrugged. "This is home," he replied. "I've heard the rest of the world is a bit warmer. Perhaps one day I will go on holiday there." My master paced the narrow decks and said nothing. After so long, we were all but home. How small London would seem when we finally arrived, now that we had seen the world from this lofty height. Our meteorological airship. A round of canasta, most relaxing. The weather cleared as we neared our destination. The water of Backseating Bay, I'm definitely saying that wrong, shone an impossibly bright blue underneath us, as the low, colorful buildings of Reykjavik swept along the curve of the shoreline. The past days of tumult and blizzard seemed almost a dream. Alright, let's stay at the hotel. Reykjavik was a quiet town with few inhabitants, but still had the feeling of a bustling center of commerce. The flag of the Kingdom of Denmark fluttered above the trade hall, declaring this place an outpost. But of all the outposts, colonies, and adjuncts of great nations we had seen, it seemed the most comfortable in its skin. This comfort most likely derived from the natural hot springs which we tried out in an open area behind our hotel. Monsieur Fogg sat at one end and myself at the other, and we breathed in gulps of steam with a deep, satisfying sigh. "They should fit these in Hyde Park," I exclaimed. Monsieur Fogg shook his head. "I think they are heated from underground thermals," he replied. "In London they would require coal, but in London there are better uses." I do believe it was the first time I heard him say, even in a roundabout fashion, that any place had its own elements of value. Yeah, we need to figure out how to get out of here. Also, there's nowhere to trade. Well, that seems like a pretty good way to go, huh? I browsed around, my ears open, investigating the various ways in which we might continue. Let's get the freak out of here. No! We can't afford it! Okay, go to the bank. Go to the bank. Bank. I regarded the bank as we entered. It was a small affair, but we efficiently looked after, and we were quickly seen to our needs. $700 Oh no. Alright, we have time. Just have to stay the night before going to bed. I attended to Monsieur Fogg. Bank opens at 9. Negotiate. Oh my god. Oh, this is bad. We're so close too. There's nowhere to. I guess I don't know. I feel like there should be. It's a trading post. Why can't we trade? That's a little annoying. Come on, bank, open up. What do we do? We visited 24 out of 169 cities. We've traveled 25,000. Favorite steamships traveled by sea. Traveled 6,000 by land. Traveled 5,000 by air. Character is presentable. Manner is passionate. Valeting is sound. Relationship with Fogg is comfortable. Okay, good. Okay. Alright, come on. Open. Okay, so we can speed up time a little bit. We return to the bank. And we got our money. And London, negotiate, continue, no charge. Let's get out of here. Hire extra space. Go. The Silver Seal was a Gaelic imported from the Ottoman Empire. Whoa. That's crazy. How long will it take? I asked the captain as we boarded. 3 days, he replied. Can't be done any faster. 3 days seemed like a very long time, and I could see Monsieur Fogg's expression that he thought as much as well. Well, that's okay, because, like, we're gonna make it. The ocean tore belong beneath us. I enjoyed talking to no one. There was nothing I needed to know, no one to charm, flatter, or beguile into giving us aid. There was only the wind and the time, and we could control neither. Passepartout, my master demanded. Make us go faster, if you would. I went to the boiler attendant. Faster, you say? You're crazy. We would explode. We want no risk, no danger. Then I promise you, you will be in London in 2 more days. Yeah, I mean, come on. We're in England! We're fine. Monsieur Fogg looked out the observation deck windows with perfect calm, as though we were not, with every passing moment drawing closer and closer to London. My nerves were in shreds, and I was nearly chewing the rails with anticipation. I spent the remaining time embarking on the writing of this account, though I found already the details of our early adventures had grown vague and indistinct. Hey! We tethered at the airship dock in Hyde Park and felt for the first time in 75 days the feel of English soil under our shoes. At long last we had returned to London, and in time to win the wager. Alright. I seized my master by the collar and threw him into one of the steam carriages idling on the banks of the Serpentine in Hyde Park. There is no need for such unseemly haste, Passepartout, my master noted, but I was a man possessed. The carriage barely shuddered to a steam-hissing stop before I dragged my master from his seat and up the steps to the imposing doors of the Reform Club. Hey, welcome in. I released him only when we reached the great saloon, where my master's erstwhile friends stood from their chairs, gaping in an attitude of great shock. Monsieur Fogg only straightened a little and said in his calm voice, Gentlemen, here I am. The room erupted into cheers. Where had the crowd come from? Had they followed us inside from the street? I had scarcely noted them. I realized, as though a spell had suddenly broken, that my master had won his wager of £20,000. With the 4,000 we began with, the debt built up from banks along the way, and our remaining funds, it was a profit of over 15,000, hardly a meager sum. My heart began to beat again, and I saw for the first time the grand interiors of the Reform Club, which had no doubt remained untouched since its founding some 30-odd years ago. The most advanced piece of technology within was a gilded clock set upon the mantelpiece. A few club members were muttering about the impropriety of alighting in front of the club from a steam carriage. One of the club butlers was taking from our case the cigarette case. To go above the bar, I think. To go above the bar, I think, he murmured. A most fine souvenir of your adventures, Monsieur Fogg, sir. It looked quite fine there, and I smiled with pride. I pushed my way through to Monsieur Fogg, who had nearly been swallowed by congratulatory crowds. You have won the bet, monsieur, I told him, and seized my master by the hand and shook it, as though saying it aloud once more would make it more real, and then repeated the sentiment again for good measure. Monsieur Fogg pressed my hand warmly and did not remark even once upon the impropriety of my gesture. Indeed, though his cool gaze did not so much as waver or soften, I believe he welcomed the chance to shake my hand. I thank you for your service as my valet, Passepartout, Monsieur Fogg said coolly. Though you did not perform your duties with particular skill, you were not particularly incompetent either. Steady mediocrity is a quality I admire in a servant. With Monsieur Fogg, one had to take one's compliments as they came. Jeez. Mr. Fogg, one of the journalists in the crowd cried, interrupting our conversation. What next for the great adventurer Phileas Fogg and his loyal valet Passepartout? My master looked at me. We shall undertake the most perilous journey of all. This is me. We shall undertake the most perilous journey of all, I announced. We shall discover the South Pole. I looked around at faces of the assembled crowd and quirked an eyebrow. Anyone care to make a wager? Monsieur Fogg refrained from rolling his eyes. I believe, he said with great deliberation, that tonight I will have supper and go to bed. Passepartout, it grows late. Yes, Monsieur Fogg, I said, and followed. Your journey round the world is complete, and we did it in 75 days. Celebrated Englishman Phileas Fogg wins round the world wager. Journey completed in 75 days despite a cursed Baghdadi dagger, captured by Kali cultists and American train robbers. So that went crazily smooth. Like, we spent most of the time on the move, which is, I mean, we got there 5 days ahead of time, which is pretty good. I've had to look at see what my record is. I think I've done it faster than that, but I have to check again. Sound valeting and a comfortable relationship, Monsieur Fogg. I've had worse. I've had much worse. Nice. Alright, cool. I think there's a way to see, like... Oh. Maybe not. Alright, we finished a little early. Why don't we just start a second journey? And I think what we'll do this time... Oh boy. I think what we'll do this time is... maybe venture more south. Try to hit up some more interesting places along the southern route. Because I feel like the north is, it's going to be very sparse. Well, we did come down. Let's see. So I really, like, for instance, I really wanted to go through Alexandria and through Egypt and like across the Saudi Arabian desert. That didn't happen. I wanted to hit some more southern locations in India. I really wanted to go up. I actually wanted to go over maybe the Himalayas through China, or possibly down through Southeast Asia and Polynesia. I think that would have been really cool. Maybe even like some South American stuff. So let's just get started, and then I'm probably going to stop a little earlier tonight than yesterday. We'll stop maybe around 10:30-ish. Let's see how this goes. Begin. My master returned home from the Reform Club with a strange gleam in his eye. "Passepartout," said he, "we are going round the world. Pack my evening jacket. There's not a moment to waste. You, Passepartout, now have funds." Wish I had friends. Right. Let's pack. Let's get all our stuff. Oh, and oil paints. We don't have enough room for the oil paints? All right, leave the snuff. Take the oil paints. Let's get out of here. Go! In 23 minutes, we gotta get out of here. Alright, we'll take the Amphitrite Express. Which I think was... yeah, a train. I was gonna say, like, we're not driving a clockwork horse to Paris. We leapt aboard the 825 from Charing Cross as the final whistle shrieked its warning. Our journey had begun. Let's converse. "Greetings, Monsieur Verne." "Passepartout, did you say your name was? What a curious appellation." "You should know, you gave it to me." Let's talk about Paris. "I love the smell of the Seine in the morning." Alright, let's talk about... Paris to Bloemfontein. Is it even possible? Magnifying glasses. Trouble. 80 days. Yeah, right? Why? Zurich. Oh, okay. Excuse me? I believe so. My friend visited Paris just before the Arlberg Express... oh, the express to Zurich went missing. Let's talk about that. Right, so you can actually get to Zurich. See, last time we didn't get to go to Zurich. Now we do. The Amphitrite Express rattled along narrow-gauge rails to Dover, where its fins extended and it plunged directly into the channel. Monsieur Fogg made no remarks as the dark water pressed against our windows. I thought it so marvelous at the time, but how many marvels were still to come. Choo-choo. Alright. So, yeah, we'll try to go down south. We'll try to go south from Zurich. We splashed up onto the rails at Calais and closed the remaining miles to Paris Gare du Nord quickly. So it's like they literally just laid the track underwater. Is that, or did we temporarily go trackless? And I'm not totally clear about that. It sounds like we just plunged on tracks going under the canal across the bottom, which is insane. Let's see. The branch line to Zurich from Paris has been completed, I see, Monsieur Fogg declared. I think Zurich would be a most excellent place to visit. I agree. I've been trying to go to Zurich since the last game. Alright. Let's buy... Alright, yeah. Let's sell that. Let's buy the Indian timetable. And let's go. Okay, credit to Karachi, Bombay. Nice. Okay. That was less helpful than I would have liked. Oh, I don't have time. Arlberg Express to Zurich. We boarded the eastbound train at the Gare de l'Est. Our train was... serviceable enough for our needs, which is to say it had wheels and a door by which we could make our way aboard. But I could not help a backward glance across the hall to where the banners for the Orient Express flapped gently. Surely that was how a gentleman should travel. But I was a mere valet and not one to question my master's wishes. If a journey into the mountains was what he required, then it was what we would undertake. The whistle blew 3 shrill notes and the steam engine puffed with pride. Then we were away, heading east. Let's talk. Greetings, monsieur. Good afternoon. My name is Alfred Dumont. Let's talk about Zurich. Zurich has some of the craziest inventors in the world. Interesting. About Zurich to Budapest? No idea. Okay. What about Zurich to Rome? Monsieur, really, but the fastest way to Rome from here is through Venice. Okay, what about Venice? We must go, it is late. We learned nothing. Okay, fine. Fine. We'll figure out some more information when we get there. Our courage rattled and rocked its way through meager-looking fields. I had the sense the engine was straining at the leash on such level ground, keen to tackle the mountains instead. Why Zurich, monsieur? I inquired as soon as he looked up from his newspaper. Is there some fantastic means of transport available? I have never been to Zurich, my master replied coolly, but the Swiss reputation is one of extreme precision. Don't dare to say that. I wonder what we will find, I replied with enthusiasm. My master gave no reaction, but paused briefly and then returned to his newspaper. The train began to groan and judder as the day drew on, and the land took a steep incline. We were climbing, as though one step and one reach at a time, into the Albus Mountains. The air grew cold and crisp, and I inhaled deeply. Even a brief sojourn here would no doubt be most beneficial to my health. We arrived as the sun was setting over the mountains and across the gleaming lakes, and I was heartened to see, as we disembarked, a clutch of rails leading the way eastwards, away across Europe. I demanded to know more from a platform attendant. Where do those rails go? That one to Vienna, the lady said, and the other goes as far as Warsaw. For a moment she seemed to have more to say, but before I could inquire, she was called away by another passenger. I left the station with a spring in my step. Our next leg would see us leaping forward across Europe. Okay. But not to Venice? Because I really want to go... Ooh. Venice. Vienna. Negotiate? That's a lot of money. Let's see what happens. We have some time. Let's pass the night in Zurich. There's got to be some other options. The streets of the city were quite literally paved with gold. Whew. The boulevards inlaid with strips of the metal, seemingly to indicate to pedestrians the direction in which they should walk. I tried to price. We spared some time for sightseeing and followed a set of street sigils toward a central square in which a play was being performed with small puppets. I foresaw my master's disinterest, and so I moved as quickly onwards to where we discovered a sight which Mr. Fogg found most unsettling. Strips of railway tack being uprooted and taken away by teams of men. "They are removing railways!" I exclaimed. This, no doubt, was what the platform attendant had omitted to tell me. Presumably because I had not asked if the rails would still be running eastward for much longer. "Most unseemly," my master concurred. I found a workman to ask about the work. "We are selling the track to India," the man explained to me. "Then we'll build some more here. I shouldn't wonder. Your character is now dependable." Okay, good thing we didn't do that. We explored the streets further, but we found no way onwards to compensate for the missing railway lines. Like the hands of a clock, it seemed the inhabitants of Zurich were more than happy to go round and round the same circular patch day in and day out. "Monsieur, what shall we do?" I demanded of my master. "Do not be concerned, Passepartout. Wheels are in motion," he replied simply, adding, "I will have some tea." But later that evening, even he appeared a shade disappointed. Master, have I let you down somehow? Oh no, that's a little dramatic. "Monsieur, there's a problem, is there not?" I declared. "So far, this city has been disappointing," my master replied cautiously. "I trust that will soon change." And that was all the explanation that I received. The character is now organized. Okay, well, we can definitely sell that. We're not going to Helsinki, I don't think. Ooh. We can buy that, and we can buy that there. And we can actually sell this, I think. 18 bucks, nice. I'm not going to... That is insanely valuable to take to Helsinki, but I don't want to go to Helsinki. I really don't. I would rather not. It's not good. That is not good. I'm hoping that this is going to pay off somehow, though. We spent our second night in Zurich in the Hellmaus Hotel, a short distance from the lake and the two towers of the Grossmünster. A rather aptly named building, in my opinion. Perhaps indicative of that Swiss precision my master had mentioned. Our mood was tense. We had not yet discovered any route onwards, and I feared our journey had reached an abrupt end. Despite the relaxing surroundings, I could not shake a sense of curious unease. Monsieur Fogg's own state I could not read. For a man losing days so early on, he seemed as calm as ever. Did he have a secret up his sleeve? We sipped hot chocolate, served on rotating platters that circled the walls of... Everything's in circles! The walls of the hotel lobby, cooling the drink to the perfect temperature in time for one to sip it. "You seem most calm, monsieur," I observed. Monsieur Fogg did not reply. But it seemed to me for just a moment that he had some secret he was not imparting to his faithful valet. Oh my god, another day! What are we doing here? Saturday, on our third night in the mountains, a note appeared under the door of our hotel. I looked to Monsieur Fogg, who swept up out of his seat by the hearth with genuine animation. "But who knows we are here?" "An associate," my master replied calmly. He opened the note and read it quickly, but then tossed it into the fire! What is happening? Alright, now I'm curious. This is different. This is different than... See, every time you play this, it's got... The replay value of this game is crazy. "But monsieur, what did it say?" I demanded, to be met with silence and a cool look. "We have an appointment," Monsieur Fogg declared. "Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We must not be late. We are going to Tunis." Tunis? In Africa? And that was that, for now at least. I prepared my master for his bed. Your character is now steadfast. What the heck? Okay, let's go to Tunis, I guess. How are we doing that? At 9 o'clock, we were standing in the shadow of Zurich's impressive cathedral church. Monsieur Fogg, somewhat anxiously checking his pocket watch. Clearly we were about to play a trump card from my master's close-held hand. and I waited with fascination to see exactly how his superb intuition for whist might manifest itself out on the green velvet of the real world. We waited for an hour, and then at 10 o'clock, a figure strolled out of a nearby side alley, chewing a paper-wrapped pastry as he walked toward us. Monsieur Fogg looked momentarily disgruntled, but murmured, "There he is." The figure was perhaps 42 years of age, and of large build, with a shock of red hair that fell about his shoulders like a mane. He was further furnished with a mustache as bristly as a cat's, and there were little patches of yellowish whiskers upon his full cheeks, round, wildish eyes, slightly nearsighted, completely a physiognomy, essentially feline. I could not believe such a rugged-looking fellow might be an acquaintance of my master, but there was no mistaking the look of recognition. Uncomfortable, yes, but genuine in my master's eye. The figure came near and raised a hand. Muscular arms and a general air of decision gave him the appearance of a hearty, jolly companion. "Phileas, you old devil," he began. "You showed up. I thought you'd bottle it." I turned to my master to see how he would reply to this slight, but he did not even trouble himself to hail the man. "Are you prepared?" he asked instead. "Time is somewhat of the essence." "Michel Ardan," he declared himself, "and you should both follow me." With that, he produced a key and led us into the dark eastern tower of the Grossmünster, me none the wiser as to our purpose. Okay, I'm at your service, Monsieur Fogg. Ah, the bumbling Passepartout. Oof. Tunis is in the far western edge of the Ottoman Empire. For instance, you can pick up wax cylinders inscribed with music in Alexandria, very valuable in Hail. Cairo? I will know some buyers will pay well for oil paints from Cairo. Wow. Okay. Monsieur Fogg, and the mysterious Michel Ardan disappeared into a crypt of the tower, and there spent an entire day, leaving me to watch the bag lest anyone following their curious noses stray inside. I myself, me, Rigel Flamsteed, professor of virtual university, am also flustered, bemused, and flummoxed. I was more than a little bemused. Yeah. We did not seem to be even a fraction closer to Tunis than before, and my master's dedication to his curious journey had never seemed so shallow. Several hours later, the two emerged, both smeared with more than a little engine grease and flushed in the cheek. What are we doing? I would describe it as in ruddy good humor. If such a description applied to my master was not a clear contradiction in terms, I leapt to my feet. I decided to dive. I nodded coolly, hoping a collected attitude would allow me to accompany them wherever they went next. "There you are, Passepartout," my master declared. "Follow me." With that, we ascended up the spiral staircase of the tower at a slight run to a strange conical room at its spire. Michel Ardan consulted his pocket watch with some animation, and then pushed me roughly into a seat fitted with... No. This is insane. Oh, God. Pushed me roughly into a seat fitted with a strap. A moment later, an explosion shook the stones of the tower, and I was forced backwards into the chair as though squashed by a gigantic hand. There was no doubt about it. We and the entire tower around us were lifting vertically upwards into the air. And we're taking a rocket. We are flying on a rocket. This is insane. I hardly trust you to attend my place. Jeez, Monsieur Fogg, give me a chance, man. As we passed over the twinkling Mediterranean, I eavesdropped on conversation and tried to piece together with what this contraption was in which I sat. It seemed this rocket was a personal project of the adventurer Ardan and was nothing more than a prototype. "This particular capsule will carry us as far as North Africa before coming to a rest," he explained. "Hopefully it will be just enough to persuade the Zam Guild to finance my true purpose." Oh no. No. All right, we're gonna find out what his true purpose is next time. I have a feeling this guy wants to go to the moon. That would be a very Jules Vernean kind of endeavor. I don't know how I feel about this, but we'll find out what happens next time in this second edition journey across the world around in 80 days, hopefully, or less. I think I'm pretty satisfied with 75 days, but I am curious where this is going to go. Well, thanks again for coming to the stream. And you know, if you're catching this on the VOD, which I think most people will, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you will. Leave a comment about where you think we're off to next. My bet is the moon, but I could be wrong, or at least where he wants to go. I don't know if we're going to actually go with him to the moon. I'm wondering if such a thing could happen, where we would like return, because that actually might bring us a heck of a lot closer to our destination. So we'll see. I'm open to anything. All right, so yeah, so I will probably stream. I may stream tomorrow night. If not, I will probably stream Sunday night, and we'll probably continue with the adventures of Lara Croft. We've left her for too long. It's been a little while. I want to keep that rolling, and we're gonna find out what's going on in Midas's palace, which is I think the last level we left off on, as we search for the second piece of the Scion of Atlantis. That Tehokan, I think, is his name. Wow, my memory is I'm actually impressed by my memory for that game. So anyway, let's pause here, and we will start again soon enough on the adventures of Lara Croft. Oh yeah, I forgot. Remember, be good and do your homework. Okay, bye for now.